Yesterday, I met with these men, and I have to tell you, they were my Sunday heroes. I'm happier to say that today they're my friends, because we understand not only where we have come from, but the challenges that we face. And I have to tell you that the battles that we are facing today as a union, as players, are very similar to the battles that you won from the past. For the 3 or 4 teams that I've visited per week, I have told them that I have 2 loves: literature and history. The reason why I have those 2 loves is because it provides you a framework where you know the end of the story without having to live it. Well, I wanted to get out to the teams because those are the people who are playing those games today. But I have to tell you, I long to get here because this is where history lies. We know the ending of the story. We know the success will be ours because the history in this room tells us how the story will end. So when you wore the signs that said no freedom, no football, we know how the story ends because we did win. We did get greater gains. For the people who laid down in front of those buses to prevent and protect the ability to provide for your family, I know how those stories end. And for the people who dealt with the history where the only message to you was shut up and play football, and you fought back, and you said no, I am a man, I am a businessman, I am a player, I believe in fairness. I know how that story ends. And for the same reason, I know that as we face a lockout on the horizon, as they challenge your benefits, as they challenge the right to understand the business of football, and when they tell us that's none of our business, because I know of the people in this room, I know how that story is going to end too. It will end with us winning. Why? Because we know sacrifice, we know dedication, we know honor, we know truth. Make sense? Hey, look, I come from a long line of Baptist preachers, so I'm not gonna get as animated as my grandfather, who preached into his 90s, will get. But does it make sense? I think it does. I think it does. Let me tell you a little bit about the business of football. The business of football is excellent. The business of football is great. I want to read to you just the first 2 lines of a story from the Wall Street Journal that talks about the extension of the television contracts to include DirecTV, CBS, and Fox. Quote, "In a sign that the media rights for major league sports may defy the recession, the National Football League reached a 4-year extension with DirecTV valued at $4 billion. The contract calls for payments of $1 billion a year for the 2011 to 2014 season. This is a 43% increase on the annual basis over the current 5-year deal. We know that last year, the National Football League generated $8 billion in total revenue. We know that over a 10-year span, the average value per team has increased to 400%. And for the men who built this game, on their backs and on their legs, on their hands, on their knees, and on their heads, can you imagine when you were playing, when you thought that the average NFL football team would be worth over $1 billion? $1 billion is the average value of the NFL team. Now I'm going to, just a little short quiz, 1 question. How many people knew or know that the National Football League is a nonprofit organization? welcome to the business of football. Welcome to the business of football. The National Football League is a 501c6 nonprofit organization. I happen to think that's a good thing because it benefits the players. We know that the National Football League operates with a number of antitrust exemptions. I happen to think that's a good thing because it benefits the players of the National Football League. But I do have to ask myself the question that as we move forward in a paradigm right now where we know that this league is preparing to lock out the players of the National Football League, I have to ask myself a simple question. Does that nonprofit status, is that status for antitrust exemptions, are those status and gifts, because they are gifts, are those gifts being used for the good of the players of the National Football League, for the men and women who work in our stadiums, for the families of the people who play, for the families of the people who played, and for the people who support our game? Are those gifts being used to the best interest of those people? And it's just a question. It's just a question. When I talk to the players and raise with them the same thing that I raised with you about the National Football League's nonprofit status, I get the same looks that you are giving me right now. What do you mean nonprofit? Nonprofit? Nonprofit. What do you mean nonprofit? Nonprofit, nonprofit. In order to break it down so that everybody can feel me, it's the kind of nonprofit where I know that all of you pay more taxes than the National Football League does as a nonprofit, because I know all of you pay more than zero. That kind of nonprofit. Make sense? Just a little. So as we move forward with these challenges, the reason why I wanted to come here is because, I'll be blunt, I didn't come here to find anybody who's retired. You're players of the National Football League. I didn't find anybody who was retired in the room yesterday. Anybody who was there understands the passion for the men and women who are connected to this game. I'm not sure anybody in that room was retired.